Welcome to Inside the Birds weekly NFL game preview. I'm Geoff Mosher from Inside the Birds. This is a little bit of new content that we're introducing here for the 2024 NFL season. Each week, I'm going to go through the list of games and give you a quick preview of each game. And, the point of it is to be insightful, in depth, talk about scheme, really preview it from more than just watch out for this quarterback, watch out for that defensive end standpoint. So I look forward to doing this all season long. It's not necessarily a betting focused show, but I will at the end of each show give three games. I'm going to take three games and give you my picks with the spread, and we'll see how I do as the year goes on. So welcome to week one, NFL. There's a lot of games. This format for this week is going to be a little bit different, given that there's tonight's game, the Thursday night game between the Chiefs and the Ravens, and then there's the Friday night game with the Eagles and Packers, and then a whole slew of games on Sunday and Monday. So I'm going to do this in two parts. You're going to get the part one right now, which is tonight's Thursday night game, get into a little bit of the Eagles, Packers. We'll mainly have that covered in Inside the Birds pregame show. And then on Friday, I will drop the second part, which is going to be the preview of the Sunday and Monday night games, along with the three games that I'm going to pick from a betting angle. So without further ado, obviously, if you live in the Northeast, it's been pretty chilly out in the morning, chilly at night. So you're getting that football weather feeling, and that's a good feeling this time of the year. We like to think about football. We like our weather to turn just a little bit nippy outside. I kind of like that. Reminds me that football is here and underway, and college football season already has started, and away we go with the NFL, which begins tonight in Kansas City. It's a matchup, a rematch of last year's AFC Championship game. The Chiefs beat the Baltimore Ravens 17-10. So they kick off the NFL season Thursday night, 8:20 on NBC, Peacock. Uh, Chiefs right now, you can get them. Looks like they're 2.5 to 3 point favorites. That makes sense to me. They're the home team. Honestly, I would make the Chiefs a little bit more. I'd probably give them 5.5 points, only because when you look at these two teams, they're really not the same teams that they were when they met last January in the AFC Championship game. You start with the Chiefs. The Chiefs last year were not your typical two-time defending Super Bowl champions. They were not the offensive juggernaut that they had been the year before, and that they've typically been under Andy Reid and with Patrick Mahomes as the quarterback. They beat the Ravens 17-10. If you remember that game, they got off to a pretty early start there, scored pretty early in the game, and then the game kind of settled in, and they had to really rely on their defense to beat the Ravens. And Spagnuolo did such a great job, masterful job all year last year with what he had. But if you look at what the Chiefs did in the offseason, they did not want to be that kind of team any longer. They're trying to become the first team in Super Bowl history to win 3 straight Super Bowls. And they felt that in order to do that, they needed to get back on track offensively. Their receiver room last year was a disaster. Let's just be real. It was a disaster. They dropped passes. They infuriated Patrick Mahomes at times. I'm not talking about Travis Kelce, obviously. I'm talking about the wide receivers, whether it was MVS or whether it was Kadarius Toney. They just, they had injuries. They couldn't get it done. They traded to get Mecole Hardman back just to give themselves any ounce of offense. But as you turn the page and you look at this year, it almost feels like the rich got richer for what they did offensively. Went out and got Marquise Brown, a good field stretcher. He's hurt right now, but he was a good player to have. They drafted Xavier Worthy, the kid who ran a 4.2 at the combine and blew it up. They drafted him in the first round. He kind of gives Andy Reid a little bit of a Deshaun Jackson clone, except Worthy was known coming out of college as a guy who's not just a one-trick pony. He can run some routes. He can help you in areas that are just, beyond the 9 route. So they expect him to be a pretty good receiver, but he is slight of frame. But nonetheless, he's got more speed and reliability than what the Chiefs were putting on the field last year. Obviously, year two of Rashee Rice, who really came on last year, mainly a guy they use in the slot and creates a lot of mismatches there because of his quickness, his good hands. He's 6'1". He's got good speed for the size, 6'1", 204 guy. He's been someone in their offense when you put him inside, especially when you have him with Travis Kelce, that you give the Chiefs guys you can just eat up the middle of the field. Patrick Mahomes will eat up the middle of the field this year with Rashee Rice, with Travis Kelce. And now, if defenses try to really lock in and stop and hold them underneath, you've got guys on the outside like Xavier Worthy who can come in. And when Hollywood Brown gets healthy, he'll come in and they'll hit you hard from the outside too. So this should be a very explosive Chiefs offense this year, assuming that the wide receivers come in and are far more reliable, which they should be. Obviously Xavier Worthy has elite speed. Hollywood Brown's been 1,000-yard receiver in this league. He kind of disappeared a little bit, had some injuries out with Arizona, but this is the perfect place for him to come sign a 1-year deal, show what he's still got, and then we'll see what happens after the year. But clearly, this Kansas City offensive line's always been good. Maybe the best interior offensive line in the league. Creed Humphrey just signed a huge extension. Great center. Maybe the best center in the league now with Jason Kelce on. Trey Smith has been a wonderful story for them at right guard. Joe Thuney, they signed him out of free agency a while back from the Patriots. He's at left guard. Obviously, the big focus will be on the new left tackle. Kingsley Suamatea from BYU, second-round pick. Strong kid, athletic kid, basically a second-round pick because it was such a great first round this year for offensive tackles. He's not a project. He's got, coming out of school, they felt he needed a little bit of work. But in this Chiefs offense, when Patrick Mahomes can do the things he can do with the football and his legs, you don't have to hold your blocks as long. And so they're excited about this kid. He should step into left tackle right away. Juwan Taylor is still their right tackle. He's serviceable. He's always prone to some penalties, offside penalties, but this should be a good enough offensive line for Patrick Mahomes to do what he wants to do. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco has become one of the league's more fun running backs to watch. I mean, the guy runs with just elite violence, if that's a term. He can really hurt you on the ground. He can catch a few passes. Been a great story out of Rutgers, 7th-round pick. I don't think he has had yet a 1,000-yard season, but it wouldn't surprise me if this was his first. They've always had McKinnon come in and catch a lot of balls and have made Pacheco more of a ground game guy. He had 935 rushing yards. So he had 1,179 total yards from scrimmage last year, but not 1,000 rushing yards yet. 830 as a rookie. I wouldn't be surprised if he was a 1,000-yard rusher this year. There's really nobody on the depth chart behind him, like a Jerick McKinnon, who's going to catch a lot of passes, or maybe Samaje Perine, who just joined them, will take some goal line carries. But Carson Steele is a backup. He's a rookie free agent. I know he was a big story in the preseason, but this will be the ground game. Will be the Isaiah Pacheco show. If you noticed the last few years, especially last year, Travis Kelce doesn't play the same number of snaps that he did 5-6 years ago. They will have him not out there on first and second down. They're trying to, preserve his body. He's 34 years old. Don't need him to be run blocking all the time. They have some pretty good backup tight ends for that. They want to save him for the pass downs. They want to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. So his numbers may go down a little bit this year. I mean, from a fantasy standpoint, if they continue to use him less on first and second down, on rundowns, but he's still Travis Kelce. Last year he played 77% of the offensive snaps compared to 80 the year before, 82 before that, and 86, then 93, then 95. So within 4 or 5 years, he's gone from playing over 90% of the snaps to less than 80% of the snaps. So that'll continue a little bit. Now, could he do more with less? Well, sure. I mean, look at this offense. Look how good the offensive weaponry is around him now. But he's always going to be a focal point of the pass offense. So maybe a few less receptions. We'll see what he does from a yards and touchdown standpoint. But Obviously, still a real potent part of their offense. And defensively, the Chiefs, they didn't lose a whole lot. Willie Gay, signed with the Saints, but the main guys are back. Chris Jones is back. The main guys up front. Mike Dana came back. George Karlaftis come back. They're going to hope that they get in year two of last year's first round pick. His name is Felix and Duke Uzoma. They hope they can get him on the field and make him a better pass rusher than in year one. Obviously, their linebacker situation, they still have Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, Drew Tranquil played. Now, Tranquil's going to have to play a little bit more with Willie Gay gone, and we'll see if he's as effective playing more snaps as he was last year when he was asked to step in. But this is a good front seven, one of the better ones you're going to see. You got Chris Jones, you got Karlaftis, you have Dana, you got guys that can rush the passer. So you're not really worried about it from them. So are they really deep? Omenahu was a player for them last year. He wound up getting hurt a little bit. We'll see if they miss him. Derek Nottie come off and give you some snaps. Mike Pennell can come off and give you some snaps. They're not maybe 6 or 7 deep in the pass rush, but when you've got Jones, when you got Karlaftis, when you have Dana, and then you saw last year, Steve Spagnuolo is going to take guys and blitz them from the second level and the third level. Trent McDuffie, who steps into a larger role this year, he is someone who can still move to nickelback if they want to do that and blitz him from there. Obviously, their big loss was L'Jarius Sneed. He got traded to the Titans as the Chiefs decided to pay some other players. That's a big loss because he was an All-Pro corner for them last year. He was a good corner, but the Chiefs they've had some good corners, but they've never been about their star veteran corners. They've been about the guys up front causing havoc, making it tough for the opposing quarterback. They definitely have good guys in the secondary. McDuffie is a good corner. Justin Reed's a good safety. Brian Cook gave him some good production last year. So they'll work some guys in, but it's always been about what Steve Spagnuolo can do from a standpoint of blitz, disguise blitz, front seven. And let's face it, it's always been about the offense putting the opposition in bad spots because the offense can be so explosive. Put you up 7-14. You could be up 2 touchdowns if you're the Chiefs by the second quarter, and that gives your defense a break. So I expect the Chiefs will be very good this year and as capable as any two-time Super Bowl champion in chasing that elusive third one that teams have not been able to get 3 in a row. This Chiefs team very, very primed and poised to do it. They open up against this Baltimore team. This Baltimore team, I know a lot of people have the Ravens as a potential Super Bowl team, a top 5 AFC team. Some have them as a top 5 NFL team. This team has lost a lot. And I get it because I'm a big operations fan of the Ravens. I think they draft well. I think they develop well. And I'm not telling you that they're going to bomb and have a bad year. They never do. They build through the trenches. But you can't ignore the fact that they've lost a lot of players on defense. They have 3 new stars on the offensive line. Unfortunately, they just had a very tragic loss in their football family, the death of their offensive line coach. Um, I feel like they've lost. I know they've gained King Henry in the offseason, and he's such a perfect Raven to go with their, mantra of running the ball, playing defense, getting pad level with the offensive lineman. He will fit in very well there as long as he stays healthy. But I just can't ignore the fact that they've had more losses than gains. And obviously, their defensive coordinator, who is largely responsible for putting out, if you look at the Ravens defense last year by metrics, they were one of the best defenses in NFL history by metrics, DVOA, things like that. And Mike McDonald was a big part of that. And he's the head coach of the Seahawks now. And he brought a level of simulated pressure. They call them sim pressures and disguise blitzes and did things defensively that just work so well for this Ravens defense. And now you get kind of a kid, Zach Orr, used to be a linebacker for the team and now becomes a first-year defensive coordinator. They keep it in the family, but you wonder if he's ready to be able to just take the reins of what Mike McDonald did last year and put out a defense that's going to be as dominant as it was last year. Clowney, who had a career year, is not there anymore. Geno Stone, who emerged into a very good safety last year for them when they were hit by injuries, he's not there anymore. Uh, so it's not exactly the same team, and a lot of components are gone. Are they strong up front? Yeah, Nnamdi Madubuike. Obviously, he just changed his name from Justin to his given name of Nnamdi. He's a great player, but they have always been a team that will hit you with great edge rushers, veteran edge rushers. Clowney last year, Justin Houston, Terrell Suggs for a long time, and you look and you say it's a big year for a guy like Odafe Owe, who was drafted first round pick in 2021 to really come into his own. Trenton Simpson, their linebacker, third round pick from 2023. He's got to step into a role to make up for the loss of Patrick Queen. I mean, those are big. Clowney, Stone, and Patrick Queen were all really good contributors to this defense last year. And while the foundation is still there with Matabuki, with Roquan Smith, with Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, who was unbelievable last year, was an All-Pro. That's great. This is not going to be a bad defense. I just think that you're going to need more in the pass rush from Odafe, from David Ojabo, the second round pick from Michigan a couple years ago, who would have been a first rounder if he didn't tear his Achilles. They need him to come into his own. They got the veteran edge guy in Kyle Van Noy, who can play forward and backwards pretty well in this league. He's been around a while. And yeah, they have great names in the secondary: Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams. So I expect this to be a good defense. I just don't know if it's going to be as elite as last year. And I think that the change of play callers uh, is going to impact them, at least early on. We'll see. I expect them to be a good defense, but I don't know that they're going to be as prolific as a defense as they were last year. And even with that, they couldn't get over the Chiefs hump. Now you look on offense, and obviously the positive here is that while they only scored 10 points last year and everybody got on them for not running the ball, I'm talking about in the AFC Championship game when they lost. Everybody got on their case. The positive here is that this is year two now of Todd Monken and his staff. And they really opened it up from a passing standpoint last year, moving on from Greg Roman. And you saw a guy like Zay Flowers come into his own, play really well, start to establish as a rookie a good rapport with Lamar Jackson. You saw Lamar Jackson play well, less designed runs, still gives you that dangerous freelance run element. When Mark Andrews stays healthy, he's very good. One of the top 3 or 4 tight ends in the league. So with Andrews and Flowers, you've got two guys who can move the chains. I'm really curious to see what they do with Isaiah Likely. Uh, this is now his third year. He's been a good backup tight end who's always been able to step in and give them something. He was a fourth round pick. It's not like Todd Monken to play a ton of two tight end personnel, but when you look at their offense this year and you don't have Odell Beckham Jr. anymore, you don't have Dobbins, you don't have Gus Edwards, you're relying on Nelly Aguilar to play in the slot. You're relying on Rashad Bateman, who's just not been a great pick, to be honest with you. A first round pick from 4 years ago. He's okay. He just gives you okay. So right now you're expecting to get what you can get out of Zay Flowers and out of Mark Andrews, and you hope that Derrick Henry can, really build up your ground game. But I just don't know that you have enough from a wide receiver standpoint. And, Likely's always been a matchup problem at the tight end. So I do wonder if Todd Monken is going to get him more involved. But other than that, 3 new starters, new left guard, new right guard. Looks like they're going to go back to Patrick McCarry at right tackle, and not go with the rookie, right, Roger Rosengarten. So we'll see how long kid was a second round pick. So we'll see. I mean, the Ravens, Ronnie Stanley, is a very good player who's had a lot of injuries in his career, and you just wonder how long can he hold up, and is he still the same player? Obviously, when you have a guy like Derrick Henry back there, you may not have to be as good of a run blocker because Henry is obviously a monster. But I just look at this Ravens offense and I feel like they're going to ask Lamar Jackson to do too much. I just don't, outside of Zay Flowers, who's a second year player, and Mark Andrews, who has dealt with injuries, I don't see a lot of dynamic playmaking ability, and they're going to go into Kansas City, and Kansas City can't wait to showcase all of its new weapons. And I just don't see it as a 3-point game. I see the Chiefs winning. I wouldn't surprise me if they won by 10. Baltimore's tough. I'm not going to sit there and bury them. The Ravens always figure out a way, but I think the Chiefs are going to be better. And I will pick the Chiefs in this game. The Friday game, obviously the Eagles in Brazil to take on the Packers. You're going to hear a lot of breakdown with me, Adam Kaplan, Greg Cosell, the pregame show um, on Friday for that. So I'm not going to get into that game too much in this one. I will say I think it's a pretty evenly matched game. The Eagles are 2.5-point favorites. I think that makes sense. Tells me that if this game was in Green Bay, the Packers would be favored. If it was in Philadelphia, the Eagles would be favorited. So it's obviously a close game between two teams that had very, very similar off seasons. They both went out and got top safeties. They both went out and got top running backs. They're both strong in the trenches. Both have really good quarterbacks. Obviously, the Eagles are working in two new coordinators. The Packers are working in a new defensive coordinator. A lot of talent for both of them, all throughout the offense and the defense. Eagles probably have a little bit, obviously have a little bit edge of wide receiver, just explosion of wide receiver. But the Packers are really good from 1 to 5, meaning their first four, actually 1 to 6, first four receivers, and then they have two tight ends who are pretty good. I don't know if the Eagles can say they're as deep in their receiver core as the Packers are. They may be more top heavy, more explosive with Smith, Goddard, and AJ Brown, but when you get to 4, 5, 6, it's where the Packers might get the edge. So we'll preview that game Friday morning from A to Z, but should be a very good game.